Welcome back to my channel. Good morning. I hope everyone's having a great morning. I want to start doing I talked about this yesterday. Live streams on TikTok one day and then on Facebook, my Facebook page the next day. I was not able to do it the second day in and I couldn't do it because well, we were trying to get Kennedy ready. We sent Kennedy off to school at 9. Well, we are getting her ready between 9 and 10. And then I had to bring my daughter needed me to take her to work at 2:15. So it was just impossible between getting them ready, getting my daughter to work, and then getting ready to be here. So unfortunately, I had to cancel this morning already, but hopefully we won't have to cancel any other mornings. So I hopped in here really quickly, and I did see that there's not a lot going on today. They're like taking roll call for the jury. If you guys want to listen to it, we will. Um, I got a few timestamps, but up until even like right now, I think they're on a break. So we'll kind of watch what they're doing. Do you guys want to listen to the roll call for the jury members? They're doing roll call for the jury members. We can listen to it in fast pace. Got the timestamps down. If you're watching Law and Crime Network, which is how I'm watching this. Let's see. All right, we'll start there. Hey, good morning, everyone. Listening for, oh, what did I just do? I just changed the color. Okay. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into this. How's everyone doing? I didn't go to bed until like almost 3 o'clock this morning. And then got up. I didn't get up at 5. Like sometimes I'll get up at 5 and do my makeup and stuff. I got up at 6 to get the kids ready. And my husband said, go back to bed. I'll get the kids ready. You were up late. So I went back to bed and slept until like 8. Great. So this is where we're at. We're looking at this big picture. Are we listening with you to the trail bit, or how can I get to it? It's not posted anywhere this time around. We're watching it together. Law and Crime Network have it, but they're not really doing a lot today. They've done like a roll call. There's a few things going on here and there, but it seems like they're on some sort of recess or something. Like I don't know why they have like a recess going on, but it seems like they have some sort of recess. And after this, we're going to finish going over the body cam footage from the Dre McCray, Marvin McCray story. So here they did a roll call for the jury members. It seemed like they did excuse a few members of the jury. You guys let me know if y'all can hear it. It's not said anything yet. I went to the wrong timestamp. Hold on. Good morning. I hope everybody has their coffee or their Red Bull or whatever floats their boat, gives them wings. I do too. Florien. Yeah, they're definitely taking their time, you know. Have we passed it up? What are you? I know that's the right timestamp. I checked it 3 times. Yeah, people on Law and Crime, they're like, are they at lunch or what? I don't think they're at lunch. Well, I don't know. They might be. What time is it on Eastern time? Cousin Eddie. Come on. But they did do a roll call for the jurors. They went through numbers and the jurors just said present, present, here, which was not very entertaining. Why are the numbers not popping up? Yeah, it should be starting like right around here. Let me check something else really quickly. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is what we're doing. They're just showing this. Let's go back to here. Are they on? Oh, 43, 45. I bet it's moved since it's been going further. That makes a lot of sense. Um, so I was catching up on this a little bit earlier, just kind of getting more information. It really seemed where everything began to unravel with Alec Murdaugh is when his son got into a boat wreck. From my understanding, his son was like inebriated. This is live too. Like I checked with Emily, they're all like on a break or something. This is what's happening everywhere. Oh, they're not. Court TV's not live. They're doing the antifreeze murder trial. They're scheduled for later at 1. So I guess they're going to do it later today. But every other place that I looked, it's the same thing.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have the clerk do the roll call to check who is here and there are a few jurors we need to have discussion with.
When I call your juror number, if you would stand and say present, and then have a seat, and I'll proceed to the next number. Thank you. Juror number 11. Present. Juror 16. Present. Juror 17. Present. Juror 22. Juror 22. Thank you. Juror 39. Present. Juror 45. Present. Juror 58. Present. Juror 59. Present. Juror 75. Present. Juror 77. Present. Juror 80. Present. Juror 82. Present. Juror 95. Present. Juror 96. Present. Juror 110. Present. Juror 112. Present. Juror 124. Present. Juror 131. Juror 148. Present. Juror 152. Present. Juror 176. Present. Juror 180. Present. I'm going to pause there for just a second. Is that button on? Juror 181. Present. Juror 185. Present. Juror 193. Present. Juror 202. Present. Juror 214. Present. Juror 220. Present. Juror 221. Present. Juror 224. Present. Juror 228. Present. Juror 240. Present. Juror 244. Present. Juror 254. Present. Juror 255. Present. Juror 257. Present. Juror 258. Present. Juror 278. Present. Juror 282. Present. Juror 294. Present. Juror 303. Present. Juror 326. Present. Juror 337. Present. Juror 346. Present. Juror 349. Present.
Juror 349, come forward, please, along with counsel. Juror 650 and Juror 729. 349, 650, and 729, and we'll speak there individually.
I like Marshall's music too. My son dressed up as him one year for Halloween. We still have the marshmallow head. Yo, I know, right?
131 is excused,
I'm like, you can't see
and
me.
349
Kitty,
is
I'm here.
excused. And you may proceed.
All right, 351. 358. 367. 370. 374. 384. 390. 394. 396. 398. 400. 441. 460. 470. 474. 482. 508. 518. 522. 524. 528. 530. 533. 534. 544. 548. 550. 556. 557. 564. 567. 568. 571. 572. 575. 578. 582. 588. 589. 595. 596. 609. 612. 630. 644. 651. 654. 658. 663. 650. 650.
650.
Thank you. 669. 674. 694. 695. 704. 705. 711. 715. 727. 729. 730. 732. 741. 752. 781. 784. Thank you. Last page. 785. 799. 803. 808. 810. 816. 816. Pretty sure you're in here. 816. 816. Thank you. 826. 845. 856. 864. 886. 887. 893. Okay. Is there anybody in here, that's a juror, whose number was not called? I'm just going to say it one more time. Is there any juror in here whose number was not called? Okay. Judge, I think that's the roll.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have all of you back this morning, and out of the number of you that are here, we're going to whittle the number down to 80. Then we will further inquire and then prepare to select the jury from that group. I want to know now, however, whether there are any jurors out there who believe that you cannot serve for whatever reason. If you believe you cannot serve, please stand. All right, ma'am, tell me your juror number. 294. All right, we'll talk to you in just a moment. Anyone else with a problem serving on this jury? Yes, ma'am. Juror number 58. Say it again. 367. All right. 282. 396. All right, we'll speak to all of you in a moment. Are there any jurors who today are experiencing any COVID-related symptoms, such as shortness of breath, any other physical problems that might indicate that you may have COVID or may have been exposed to someone with COVID? Yes, ma'am. Tell me your juror number. 202. And Are you currently experiencing problems, or you believe or you're been in contact with someone who's having problems?
I have a cough.
Number 202, and you believe that might be a COVID related, possibly.
I don't think so.
Or do you believe that you're available to serve, or that we should let you go?
I think I'm available.
All right, thank you. Has anyone else been exposed to anyone who you have been diagnosed with COVID, or who you think might have it? So, Madam Clerk, you can we'll talk to those jurors, but you can get your list of 80 while we take this break. And just go and do it, because if they're in it, then we'll just strike through them. All right, we'll be at ease just again as we speak with the what are the numbers? 294, 58, 367, 282,
And 396.
that one still?
Yes.
And 396.
Okay, so it seems that there were 47 jurors called today during roll call. The judge called out 3 of those jurors when we first heard him calling out numbers. Those numbers were 729, 349, and 650. He called those numbers and asked to meet them in the back. Um, uh, let me see if that's right. Was it 40 something? Because this is saying they started with 123. I don't feel like we sat through 123 numbers, though. Someone on Twitter said, if you really listen to the 911 call that was made by Murdaugh, you can tell he wasn't faking. He was very distraught and was not faking those emotions. I don't see why it's so hard to believe that someone could have done this to Alec for revenge. And what better revenge? Did it seem like we sat through 100? So it seems like later today, I guess after lunch, opening statements will begin and the official trial is set to begin. That's what I'm reading. They may be going to like some sort of lunch right now. I heard the call this morning. I was listening to more stuff this morning about this case.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, they're running a list of the 80, so we'll just all stand and be at ease for a bit, give you a chance to stretch and all of that.
Yeah, this one says 47 jurors were called during roll call today. The judge called out 3 of those jurors, which we know to be, because I heard that. I wrote them down, 729, 349, 650. Called to the back. They did excuse 349. I heard him say 349, you're excused. Other people saying they could not. I was listening to something this morning where juror members stood up and said, um, he sued my dad. Do you think that would cause you to not be able to give an unbiased, like, would you be able to serve as a member of the juror unbiasedly, considering that Alec Murdaugh sued your dad? No. Okay, you're excused. One person stood up saying that Alec Murdaugh actually represented his family and that he didn't think that he would be able to, he didn't think that he would be able to be an unbiased juror member. So they excused him as well. This is interesting as well. We're going to look at this really quickly. I don't know why this Twitter is like Adam Levine. I don't know why. My Twitter on my computer, every time I open it, it immediately goes to Adam Levine, and I don't know how to change that. All right, so there's some things on Twitter that are kind of interesting to look at, and we'll look at them really quickly while we wait. Notably, the state prosecutor, Creighton Walters, said spent shell casings found near Maggie's body matched older ones found all over the Musell property, indicating they all came from the same gun, a blackout rifle that Alec Murdaugh had bought Paul, which remains missing. Alec Murdaugh's surviving son, Buster, is on list of potential witnesses who could testify during the double murder trial. Did they get people that are out of area if short on enough jurors? I'm not sure. Southern Charmer says everyone here knows him. So yeah, what's the overall consensus in the area that he did it?
Welcome to Law and Crime here on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Anjanette Levy, and thanks for joining us as we are following jury selection in the trial of disgraced South Carolina lawyer Alec Murdaugh. Alec Murdaugh is accused of murdering his wife Maggie and son Paul back on June 7th of 2021. And this has been a case that has captivated not only the nation, but people in the low country of South Carolina. Right now, there are 125 prospective jurors who have reported to the courthouse in Colleton County for the final bit of jury selection that we're watching unfold right now. And we're going to be taking your questions over the next hour or so. So please feel free to submit those to us on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and on our YouTube chat. As I mentioned, 125 prospective jurors reported to the Colleton County Courthouse this morning. 2 have been eliminated from that pool so far. From that group, the final 12 and alternates will be selected. Colleton County is a small place. South Carolina really is a small place, but Colleton County has a population of around 38,000 people. So selecting a jury is going to be really difficult, actually. It will be a challenge for these attorneys and for the court because Alec Murdaugh and his family are basically a legal dynasty in South Carolina's low country.
Okay, so this shows him going into...
You hear the sound of generators powering what feels almost like a food truck party.
How's the food?
Oh, the food is great.
Yeah.
This is really good.
This is local barbecue. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I met Larry Adams and his wife Sandra. Larry grew up in the South Carolina Low Country.
Hopefully they do the right thing. The whole nation is watching them, and can't be new time for the good old boy stuff. You gotta have real, true justice.
One thing that people are pointing out is that he has his coat over his hands so you can't see that he is handcuffed. Which everyone would know that he is, but I definitely think that's what he's trying to do.
Did you look your son and your wife in their eyes when you did it?
It is a bit of a circus each day when Alec Murdaugh enters the courthouse. Across the
Southern Charmer, who is from the area from understanding, said, everyone I know thinks he paid someone to do it. Southern Charmer also says, you should watch the ID channel about them poor. Anthony was crying so much. He loved Mallory.
Recently, I spoke with Alan Turkheimer. He is a jury consultant about what it will be like to find a fair and impartial jury in this community.
Jurors, everybody for that matter, are not necessarily good at knowing how biased they are. So you might have some jurors, and both sides have to look out for a juror that indicates, yeah, they know about the family, they know a little bit about this case, and they can be fair. People want to think they're fair. People, when they talk in public in front of a judge and others, want to believe they can be fair, and it can be a sincere belief. However, there are probably some biases in a lot of the panelists, it could be called, that each side has to really probe into and then understand in order to give either the state or the defense a fair shake.
And that was Alan Turkheimer, a jury consultant who works with us frequently here on Law and Crime on these big cases, talking about the challenge of selecting a fair and impartial jury in Colleton County, South Carolina for the double murder trial of Alec Murdaugh.
So apparently when they had like everyone that they had called to jury duty, like 200 people, the judge said, if you have heard of this case, know of the family in some way, stand up. Like, allegedly, like, everyone stood up, basically. And the judge even said, wow, that's everyone. So, I mean, a lot of people obviously know about this family, familiar with this family, heard of the case at the very least. Also, this was interesting. There's always that guy, someone said, and they're saying that to this tweet. A man driving past the courthouse rolls down his window and screams, I did it. That settles it. Obviously, someone just looking for a little clout, you know. But there he is again, walking into the courthouse with his coat over his handcuffs, seemingly trying to conceal the fact that he has handcuffs, but of course he would. Of course he would have handcuffs.
So as I mentioned at the top of the show, we are going to be taking your questions for the next hour. We want you to keep those coming to us on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and in our YouTube chat, and we will get to them. We have a great panel with us here today to discuss this case and take your questions. First of all, we have Gigi McElvey. She is down in Colleton County at the courthouse in Walterboro. Law and crime host and defense attorney extraordinaire, Linda Kenny-Bodden. And
oh, wow. B said, that's right, Elle. Over 400 potential jurors stood up. That is crazy.
Joseph Scott Morgan, a forensic death investigator and host of the Body Bags podcast. Thanks to all of you for being with us today. Gigi, I want to ask you first, what is the mood like? What's it like down there today as we get this jury selected? We've got 123 people sitting in that courtroom right now, and we're going to be whittling that panel down to the final 12 along with the alternates.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's ready for jury selection to wrap up and get to these openings. Everybody wants to hear the facts of the case, how they were able to get the double murder charges. So it's a mood of anticipation for sure right now here in Colleton County.
Linda Kenny-Bodden, I want to ask you, you've been through this before, you've done plenty of high-profile cases.
Yes. Hello.
I
didn't hear the question,
Linda
Anjanette.
Kenny-Bodden, I want to ask you, I'm so sorry. What is it going to take to get this jury selected? We're obviously going through this final process, but tell me what that's going to look like.
Well, let me say the problem that you have when you're on any type of high-profile case is weeding out the person who wants to be on the jury, has already made out their let's shall we say, initial decision, and they want to get on the jury, so they make sure that jury goes their way. That's the most difficult part for both sides, but especially for the defense. The defense is going to be looking for those pre-existing biases that may be hidden. They'll take a juror that may be pro-state, but that will be honest about their feelings over somebody that may not be. So I think you'll have a jury. The lawyers know who they're talking with, they know the people in the community, and they'll know pretty much how to pick out that person who wants to be the spy for either side.
And Joseph Scott Morgan, there's going to be a lot of forensic evidence in this case. We have Maggie and Paul, mother and son, murdered on June 7th, 2021, also shot with 2 different firearms. The state alleges, though, it's one shooter. What's the challenge going to be there?
I think trying to wrap your head around the fact that 2 long arms, not a pistol and shotgun or a pistol and a rifle were used, but a shotgun and a rifle. These are shoulder-fired weapons. And from my experience, where you have multiple weapons involved and you're talking about one shooter, there's an idea of transition that has to take place between the use of these 2 weapons. And so it's very cumbersome. And again, I think that the defense is going to utilize that bit of information to at least instill possible in the minds of others that there might be other people involved, because this is very difficult to manage. You know, with the shotgun alone, one of the interesting things for me at least is the fact that you don't just have one type of ammunition that's being fired from the shotgun. You have two. You have birdshot and buckshot, which again is fascinating because most of the time when someone loads up a weapon, particularly a shotgun, you're going to use one type of ammunition consistently. The fact that there were two is quite compelling, I think. So there's going to be a lot to pick through. You're going to have dynamic blood evidence that's going to be involved, trace evidence that's going to be involved, those sorts of things.
Yeah, the two long guns is confounding to me, both the rifle and the shotgun, and the fact that we have two victims in somewhat close proximity to one another. Maggie sadly found on the outside of the dog kennel, and then Paul found inside in that storage room area. Okay, let's get to some of your questions. We have some great questions coming in. Again, keep them coming on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook, and we will get to them, as many of them as we can. Our first question comes from D. Turner from YouTube, and I guess Joseph and Linda, either one of you could answer this question. I'll throw it to you, Joseph. Did they find either long gun?
To the best of my knowledge, they have not found the rifle. I'm unsure about the shotgun at this point in time, so I can't answer that in the affirmative. Again, we're waiting for a lot of this information to come out.
That's interesting because they were testing, right?
Most definitely. And Gigi, our next question comes from JRS1 from YouTube. How many years behind bars is he facing if found guilty, Alec Murdaugh?
Life in prison. They opted not to go after the death penalty, and that is in addition to the hundreds of years he's already facing for the financial crimes that he's accused of.
Mm-hmm. And Linda, I think this is a really good question because, we topped off the hour talking about what a small jury pool it is there in Colleton County, and the fact that you have Alec Murdaugh, a fourth generation of this legal dynasty. They've had massive control over the court system and politics in that county for years now, almost a century, if not a little bit longer. Why did they not change venue in this case? I think that could cut both ways, right?
Right. It's a really interesting question because it's very much like the case we're seeing in Idaho. Where do you put this case?
Thank you, Elizabeth.
In South Carolina, that there's not going to be some kind of tentacles from that family, and the case is known everywhere, right? So I think that the attorneys felt that they could weed out, and the judge also, those that had that great bias, that knew the family, right? That said, no, we've had dealings with the father, the grandfather, we've had dealings with him, our kids go to school with their kids, that they could get rid of those, and who's ever left may be the pool that would be fairest. And remember, it's not unusual not to change venue anymore. The courts are really going against that. They may move it a county over here or there, but they're not really, interested in like moving it to, 3 counties away and busing jurors and all. So I do think that it will work out, and I think that the court knows what they're doing here.
Well, and that judicial district there, the 14th Judicial District, where Alec Murdaugh's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather were all the solicitor, which is a district attorney or prosecutor, as a lot of us would know it. That's really like a 5-county area. So you'd really maybe have to be moving this thing clear across the state. And they must think they can get a jury in Colleton County. So I have another question for you, Linda, because we were just talking about this, the four of us, before we went on the air. And I know that you know a lot about this stuff, as does Joseph. And this has to do with the ballistics in this case. This comes from Melissa Dotson from YouTube. Linda, how significant do you think the judge's ruling was on allowing the ballistics expert's testimony? And this has to do with that motions hearing we had yesterday, in which he was questioned about how he was able to render this opinion about those 300 blackout rounds and the type of gun from which they were fired when he doesn't have the gun, when he doesn't have the rifle.
Oh, Melissa, thank you for that question, because I love talking about this area. I spent several days cross-examining a firearms examiner in the Aaron Hernandez case, and we had a not guilty on the double homicide there on these same issues. Now, the judges are always going to allow the firearms tool mark identification, it's actually called, as opposed to ballistics, which is the movement of the bullets in the air, the firearms identification, tool mark identification in, because it's pretty much been accepted in the communities, except that in the scientific area, there has been an attack in the past, I should say, from 2009 on, that indeed that it's a subjective determination whether cartridges and shell casings match each other and or match a weapon, and that there's no statistical foundation or error rates for the identification by the experts for the state. So I don't think that the motion or the decision by the court allowing it in is significant, because I think if the defense is going to make their case, they're going to do it in front of the jury in ways that the jury can understand. They were expecting it, but it's going to be an interesting case, isn't it? And maybe it doesn't come down to those matches, maybe it comes down to everything else.
And it very well could come down to everything else. Back to those firearms, though, Joseph. I thought it was interesting yesterday, and I expected Judge Newman, who's a pretty by-the-book judge from what we've seen in other cases, I expected him to allow that testimony in. I didn't think he would not. He was just going to say, look, that's up to the jury to decide. They hear it and give it whatever weight it's worth. But it is interesting to me that he was able to kind of opine on this without having that rifle to use as, the gun to test from.
Yeah, and one interesting little aside here is that apparently other casings were found at the scene. Remember, this is an isolated rural area. They had an area where they would fire weapons, and there were other 300 blackout casings that were apparently found at the scene. So in the absence of a weapon, the actual weapon, and this is all circumstantial, please understand that. If you find those casings at the scene, okay, that may be weathered, more weathered than those that are around the body, you could take an intellectual opinionated leap here and say, well, we compared those casings with the ones we found adjacent to the body. We know that he owned a 300 blackout. We can't put our hands on it. But again, circumstantially, how do you explain that away? And I think that that's something that the defense is not going to have as hard a time attacking as they would if they actually had the physical weapon, the rifle, in their hands. But it does set up quite interesting, though, doesn't it? Because, you know, you've got this, and what we're talking about here are not the projectiles themselves, the actual bullet that comes out of the end of the weapon. What they're looking for are going to be the markings that are going to be on the casing that's left behind, that soft brass casing or soft metal casing. You're looking for extractor marks and ejector marks. This is a semi-automatic weapon, so there's a whole mechanism that comes into play to throw that empty shell or hull away and reload another one in there. And there's very distinctive markings. Now, they are not as distinctive and identifiable, say, for instance, as the rifling that you see on the projectile that travels down the twist and the turns of the barrel. But yet, you know, this has been recognized in court, as Linda had mentioned, and it's going to be a fight. It will be a dogfight in the courtroom. I'll be interested to see who the defense brings in as an expert in this case to kind of, you know, counterpunch with this.
You know, you made a lot of interesting points. I am really looking forward to seeing who the defense brings in, because defense attorneys love to attack the ballistics evidence. They love to attack all of the evidence, but I think they particularly like to attack that area, that field of forensics. Also, the fact that they did find shell casings with similar markings at the shooting range on that property. Gigi, our next question, I'm going to throw this one to you because you've actually been in the courtroom and you've been outside too, just getting a look at everything. This comes from Incognito from YouTube. Incognito asks, has Alec Murdaugh had any support from extended family members at this time to support a verdict of innocent or not guilty, or do they side with the prosecution? What are you kind of seeing as you sit in that courtroom?
Well, yesterday I sat directly behind his sister, who was there. He seemed very happy to see her, thanked her for coming, told her he loved her. But so far yesterday, she was the only family member that I saw in that courtroom. So he was she was there and seemed to be nodding her head yes when the defense would talk. So it seems like she is agreeing that he didn't do this, at least by her body language and nodding her head every time the defense made a point that was in his favor.
Definitely. And no matter what you think of this case, you know, a family, a woman sticking by her brother, you know, everybody needs some support no matter what they're going through in this world. All right, we want you to keep those questions coming on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and on our YouTube chat, and we will get to as many of them as we can. For now, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you are here watching Law and Crime as we cover jury selection in the trial of Alec Murdaugh.
Y'all, I'm using some Kat Von D concealer, and it has got my eyes watering. I don't know what to do. It didn't water when I put it on, but now it's like... Just keep my eye closed, I guess. I'm going to... The rest of the day, I'm going to be like this. Really stormy here this morning. It stormed here yesterday. Got 99 problems, but the truth ain't one.
Back to Law and Crime, I'm Anjanette Levy, and we are right in the middle of jury selection for the trial of Alec Murdaugh in Colleton County, South Carolina. Murdaugh, of course, accused of murdering his wife Maggie and son Paul back on June 7th of 2021. Prosecutors contend his life was basically in shambles. He was living a double life and murdered his wife and son because a lot of this stuff was going to start coming to light. He had been confronted that day, that very afternoon, by his law partners asking about missing millions of dollars from the firm. But you know, Alec Murdaugh says, I didn't do this. Somebody else did this. He has pleaded not guilty, and he claims he has an alibi for the night of the murders. Ballistics evidence will be very important in this case. And just yesterday, there was a hearing, a motions hearing, about the testimony of Paul Greer and what he plans to testify to for the prosecution in this case about the ballistics evidence. There were two guns used in this case, both a rifle and a shotgun were the murder weapons. We know the rifle has not been recovered from statements made in court. So let's listen to a little bit of Paul Greer's testimony. He is a firearms and tool marks examiner.
I'm familiar with any studies that have concluded that projectiles fired through rifle barrels producing the same production lot have identical markings.
I am familiar with certain studies. Some of those I participated in as part of my training that are known around the United States and internationally that consisted of those consecutively rifle barrels. That means that they were made by a tool at the same approximate time in the same state of wear. I've also done other studies with cartridge cases looking at the consecutively manufactured breech faces. And we as firearms examiners are aware of those markings. And in those studies, they're conducted because in the firearm and tool mark identification world, if you will, if we are expecting to see those carryover of those markings, we would expect to see that on tools that are made, or excuse me, on barrels that are rifled consecutively, or those breech faces that are manufactured consecutively, because that's when that tool is passing over that surface one after another. And I've conducted those studies, such as the Brenda 10 barrel test, the Hamby breech face test, the Glock Evis barrels, which all have consecutively manufactured items within them. And I was able to distinguish between those items and looking at them under the microscope, evaluating those characteristics that are exhibited on those fire components, and correctly identify and associate those with the correct information.
Okay, so that was Paul Greer, the firearms and tool marks examiner from SLED, who performed the ballistics work in this case. Linda Kenny-Bodden, your thoughts on that little bit of testimony that we heard during that motions hearing?
Well, here's where the defense is going to go. I'll give you that, okay? But they're going to start with this. This is the report they're talking about from 2009 that talked about the unreliability, or not, that there's no foundation, scientific foundation for this. And by the way, it's not ballistics, it's firearm and tool mark identification. They'll talk about there's no evidence of testing for the height, the depth, the width, the curvature, the peaks, the ridges, the furrows, the contours of whatever marks he is looking at. That there has been no peer-reviewed study by a proper body to what his tests have been. That he knew that when he had all these items, when he was looking at, that he knew that the quote matching one was there. That he doesn't know, he's not doing a test which is called like a black box study where you don't know what the answers, or the answers may not be before you. So I can see where the defense is going to go, and they are going to spend a lot of time questioning him on these areas that said that he is basically giving his subjective opinion and he doesn't have any foundational validity.
I think you make some great points there. Joseph Scott Morgan, this is just a question that you and I have talked about. Gunshot residue. When Alec Murdaugh was at the scene that night and placed that 911 call, I think it's pretty obvious he was immediately a person of interest in this case, as he would be since he's closest to the victims. But we don't know if they ever did a gunshot residue test.
Well, there's some indication, I think, in one of the reports that they found particulate elements of gunpowder on the infamous shirt now that we've heard about. Here's the bigger issue for me, Anjanette. Unlike firearms examination, when you begin to talk about GSR, you're talking about something that can be quantified, qualified and quantified, because it's measurable.
So that's the shirt that allegedly had blood splatter on it. That the prosecution found blood splatter, but the defense did not get the test for some reason.
Firearms examination, as Linda pointed out, you can't put a numeric value on it like you would with DNA. But you begin to think about GSR. Well, GSR can be rather fragile, all right? Just follow my logic here. You have, apparently, and this is why I think that the shotgun is significant here, because you get...
All right, that was weird. We're going to go back in there, because that was me.
Hey, let's go get lunch.
Hi.
What's wrong? Man.
It's still doing it. Wait, that's not me.
And I don't know what to do.
Is that me?
We can't...
I've got this.
That stuff deposits.
Okay, let's see something. Let's see what's going on over here.
The life of Alec Murdaugh.
You gotta be crapping me right now. Is my whole computer booting out on me? Please.
We that.
And that was Gallatin County, South.
Well, there's some indication, I think.
Wow, look at that. You guys can't see that, but.
Murdaugh says he didn't do it, says he's not guilty. So one of the big questions in this case is the motive. And the prosecution says the motive is basically that Alec Murdaugh was living a double life. His life was falling apart. He had all of these financial pressures on him, being questioned about missing money from his law firm, having to produce financial records in a civil suit involving his son, Paul, who had been driving a boat and caused a crash that killed Mallory Beach back in 2019. So there's a lot here. And really one of the questions, and a lot of our viewers are asking this question, is will those financial crimes, the financial misdeeds, the records come into evidence? Will the prosecution be allowed to present those? So Linda Kenny Bodden, a decision on that hasn't yet been made by Judge Newman, but do you anticipate a lot of those financial records coming in or being allowed to come in as evidence of motive?
Well, we did hear the prosecutor say that the reason that, according to the state, that the defendant killed his wife and his son is because he was about to be exposed in those financial crimes. So I do anticipate that some mention of the financial crimes will be coming in with some kind of jury, issue in terms of telling the jury that doesn't mean, that he's a bad person, but it's going to the motive. However, if I'm the defense, I am ready for that, Anjanette, because I'm going to say, oh yeah, let it all in. You were a bad person. You deceived. You took away money from other people. You were a scoundrel. You defrauded and you stole from many people. Well, every single person that you stole, deceived, defrauded, they are a potential future defendant, according to the defendant. They're a potential person who could have killed his wife and his son. So I'm saying, bring it on.
It cuts both ways, doesn't it, Linda? You
Yes.
can often turn those things on their head as a defense attorney, because there could have been any number of people who did this. I'm thinking to myself, I was thinking yesterday, what if somebody wanted to send a message? That could be a possible claim the defense makes. I don't
Jeanette,
know.
when we teach this at Harvard, we teach there are no bad facts in a case. The facts are put into your theme. If they don't work in your theme, they may not be good. But there are no bad facts in a case.
Facts are facts.
Very interesting perspective there. And you would be a good teacher on that, Linda, I know. Gigi and Joseph, I'll go to you first on this, Gigi. A lot of people want to know whether or not the defense is going to point the finger at cousin Eddie. Curtis Eddie Smith. He is the guy accused, along with Alec Murdaugh, of shooting Alec Murdaugh in the head almost 3 months after the homicides. Alec Murdaugh came out after claiming he was shot in the head by somebody he didn't know, that, yeah, cousin Eddie and I cooked this up, or I cooked this up because I needed a $10 million life insurance policy for Buster, my only living son. Then Alec Murdaugh goes to rehab, says he's got an opioid addiction. So do you anticipate, are you getting the vibe that the defense is going to try to pin this on cousin Eddie?
I mean, they said as much in a filing not too long ago where they say he failed a polygraph test when asked specifically, did you murder Maggie and Paul? And in fact, in the filing had screen grabs of that polygraph test with the lines put in that filing. So I think it's the easiest one to go to as far as putting the blame on. He was familiar with the property. They had other dealings that I'm not sure will come into this, but he is on the witness list. So we will see if the defense goes after him, but they have made a big deal about that failed polygraph test. I'm curious to see if that's brought up, even though it's not admissible in court.
And the prosecution does not want the jury to hear about that because polygraphs are not admissible in court. An update just briefly from our producer. Yes, Joseph.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that this idea that cousin Eddie could be, had the finger pointed at him, he is essentially a fall guy in this from one perspective. He's a target that they can reach out to. Think about everybody else that Murdaugh has had contact with, the people he's defrauded. Allegedly, we just had a settlement that has been reached with Mallory's family. And of course, they've been drugged through just a hellacious time. And then poor old Gloria Satterfield. They can't set these people up that way. They've already been beat to hell and back, essentially financially and every other way, and they've been defrauded. So cousin Eddie is kind of a default position here. Maybe that's the direction the defense is going to go in. I can't imagine that they would, point the finger at any of these other peripheral individuals that are involved. Not to diminish the pain and suffering, but cousin Eddie is somebody that he's been involved with. throughout these number of years? He's somebody that's part of the family that they know, those sorts of things. But just having covered the Gloria Satterfield case extensively in my own way, when you look at that's a very sad situation.
Very sad situation. And one thing you brought up that we had discussed earlier, Joseph, too, Cousin Eddie would have known the lay of the land on that property. So that's one thing that could play in the defense's favor. An update from our producer, Christina Bubba, just now. She tells me that we have 7 jurors that have been selected. So we are getting closer to those 12 jurors and the final panel of 12 plus the alternates. So we're keeping a close eye on this, and we've loved taking your questions this hour, and we hope that you'll keep them coming in the days and weeks ahead. I am going to sign off now. Linda Kenny Bodden is going to take it from here. Gigi, thank you. Joseph Scott Morgan, thank you. And thank you as well. We will be right back.
So apparently they're saying Cousin Eddie failed the polygraph test. Eddie Smith. What would be the reason for using 2 weapons? Like, how is that smart? To me, it just, I don't know. Like, what would be the purpose of using 2 weapons? And my thing is how do you go from, if they're together, if, the mom and the son's in the house, whoever you shoot first hears it and comes running or is like, what are you doing? You have time to switch weapons? Like, what? Right? Does that make sense? So from my understanding, a polygraph test is inadmissible in court. I don't even know if they can bring it up at all. But I am wondering what would be the purpose of using 2 weapons, and he clearly had to have both of the weapons on him and quickly switch, because I would have attacked somebody in the process of them trying to switch weapons. If I had just witnessed them.
What say you for the state?
What?
Right, we're back. Maybe not. No, we're not going there. Get Adam Levine out of there. That's the photo they had to take down.
During the course of the trial, that this painting of Alec Murdaugh's grandfather will be removed during the course of the trial. That this painting of Alec Murdaugh's grandfather will be removed during the course of the trial.
Interesting. This is the media center for the Alec Murdaugh trial. It's in the Walter Burrow Wildlife Center inside a live alligator named Albert. Journalists come from across the country in a courtroom feed. Not once, but twice during this trial, the building will host a wedding. Interesting. We have loaned a spot to Katie Beck, NBC, and NBC News for NBC News Now for a few hours. You can watch on WSAV. You're welcome at Sean Reynolds. This was him arriving.
We're going to have a conference with juror number 22 right here. If you'll come here for a moment.
Alex, how you feel? today? What do you want us to know? Alex, how you feeling today? What do you want us to know?
I swear earlier when I was watching that, I heard someone say, "Did you look your wife and son in the eyes when you killed them?" 47 jurors were roll call. Judge called out 3 of the jurors, met in the back. That's where things stand. They're choosing 18 jurors today. 6 will be alternates. Paul Murdaugh does not get the same empathy from the public as other victims do. He made a lot of mistakes, but he's also a victim. We aren't good or bad people. We all are people, sometimes doing good or bad things. Can someone, yeah, I'm lost on this too. Can someone explain to me why everyone is pronouncing Alex Murdaugh as Alec Murdaugh? Thank you. I don't really get it either, but whatever. That's just how it really is. That's just how it is, really. Alec is pretty common pronunciation for Alex, but the last name is a bit of a mystery to me. I've lived in SC my entire life. I have too, and honestly never heard anyone pronounce it as Alec. I have known a few Alex, but never known an Alex pronounced the same way. South Carolinians like to have special twists to pronunciations of things, so they know who belongs because they know the right but weird sounding pronunciation. Usually applies to places. See Olar, Abbeville, Anor as a quick few examples. When I said Olar, I said Olar to a local. They were like, no, it rhymes with.
What say ye for the state?
Please excuse the juror from this particular case. Thank you.
All right. Juror number 22, you can have a seat back with the panel. Juror 729. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
Please swear this juror.
Have a please seat to your right. Juror 864.
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
Please swear the juror.
If you'll have a seat to your right, please. Your Honor, that's your 12.
Pardon?
That's 12.
2, 4, 6, 8. No, you're absolutely right. We'll proceed with alternates.
And Your Honor, are they? Thank you. Juror 278. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
Defendant.
Excuse the juror.
Thank you. Have a seat back with the panel. Juror 741. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
Please swear the juror.
Have a seat to the right, please. Juror 254. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
Swear the juror, please.
Thank you. If you'll have a seat over to your right, please. Juror 326. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
Try the number again, please.
That is 326. What say you for the defendant?
Swear him, please.
Thank you. Have a seat to your right, please. Juror 337.
Are these jurors being sequestered? Does anybody know? Will they be?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. It is 337. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
Excuse the juror, please.
You'll have a seat back with the panel, please. Juror 441. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
Swear the juror, please.
You'll have a seat to your right, please. Juror 704. What say you for the state?
Please excuse this juror.
You'll have a seat back with the panel, please. Juror 82. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
please.
If you'll have a seat back with the panel.
I believe they're out of strikes.
No, 2 and 1 each. Two strikes. 1 and 2. I asked to each alternate.
Juror 530.
Your Honor, may I approach, please?
I would think they'd be sequestered ill, knowing the power and publicity. Yeah, because I'm like, could they be like, somebody said, doesn't the defense know that we're like sitting here waiting? Can they hurry it up, please? I would love jury duty, honestly. I love like law. I'm nosy. So it would be like my cup of tea, I think. But I've never gotten it.
Juror 530, please come forward.
Madam Clerk, so we have how many strikes left on this alternate? 1?
On this particular alternate, if it is per person, then you still have 2 strikes left.
No.
Oh, 1 more?
We just need 1.
I'm sorry, 1 more, yes.
Please present this juror.
Defendant?
State out of strikes?
They used their first strike.
They only have 1. Okay. Present the juror.
All right, this is alternate number 5. If you please be seated with the jury. Juror 548. What say you for the state?
Please present this juror.
What say you for the defendant?
Please swear this juror.
Thank you. Have a seat with the juror, please. Your Honor, that completes the 6 alternates and the 12 jurors.
All right. Think we got them?
Are there any matters of law regarding the jury selection?
Your Honor, please.
All right.
Can be said, I would say, I can't serve because I already think he's guilty. What say you?
None from the state, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, you all have been selected to be the jury in the trial of this case, and I'll speak with you all in a moment. First, I want to thank the other jurors who are here who have not been selected, so stand by. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to certainly thank you all for your cooperation during these past 3 days, and even before then when you received this questionnaire in the mail to complete. You've now complied with your jury service Some of you are happy and some are sad that you weren't selected. I don't know that, but congratulations having completed your jury service. Madam Clerk, do you have any information for them regarding work excuses, anything of that nature?
Yes, sir. If you do need a work excuse, you can go downstairs to the General Sessions Department, and they will be glad to help you out with that. Thank you for coming, for your service.
All right, thank you all, and you are excused.
So I'm hoping opening arguments will start today. That's what it said would happen. I don't know if they're going to take some sort of break, but we do have a jury now, so that's good. Still trying to figure out about this Alec Murdaugh situation. It's actually the correct pronunciation, which is hard to reconcile with the spelling, but all locals and individuals close to the family all pronounce the hard cooks at the end of each. CKs. I have a theory. It may be the Germanic sound that some people are tacking on. His family decided that the pronunciation and just kept the bit. All right, so Mallory lost her life in tragedy. My thoughts are with Connor and her family. It must be hard to have it all brought back up again. Very sad. There's another video of him arriving because there's 50 million of those out.
Alex, how you feeling today? What do you want to know?
Are there any matters before the jury is sworn?
Your Honor, I believe there is one matter that we need to put on the record very quickly before they are sworn.
Your Honor, we have waived any Jackson v. Deno hearings as to any statements made by the defendant to Calhoun, made on the night of June 7th, morning of June 8th, August 11th. Was there another?
3 statements in the body line.
That's on the night of June 7th.
I believe that they are waiving any Jackson v. Deno hearings with any of the statements related to the murder investigation, of which there are 4, I believe, 4 recorded statements.
That's correct.
Are there any matters before the jury is sworn?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, Madam Clerk, you may swear the panel.
I can have you stand for me, please. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you shall well and truly try and true deliverance make between the state of South Carolina and the accused at the bar, and a true verdict give according to the evidence and the laws, so help you God? You will have a seat, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've now been selected and sworn to well and duly try this case and render a true verdict according to the law and according to the evidence, so help you God. And as long as you hold true to that oath, you will have, in the end, fully complied with your oath as jurors, and no one will have the right to complain about your verdict. We have taken the entire morning to get to this point. We have run into lunchtime. I will have a preliminary charge to give you before we get started this afternoon, but we're going to break for lunch in just a moment. As far as the jurors coming back and the parties being ready for opening statement, what says the state? What time will you be ready to go?
Your Honor, we both believe we can be ready by 3 o'clock.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break for lunch, and I know you'll go to the jury room, get acquainted with one another, and you'll be given some instructions by the bailiff. It is important for you to know that you're not to discuss the case with each other, with anyone else, and not to endeavor to find out any information about this case other than what you will receive here in the jury, in the courtroom. So we're going to break now, go to the bailiffs, follow their instructions, and we'll see you back at 3 o'clock.
All right, so opening statements will start at 3 o'clock, which is going to be 2 o'clock my time. We're at 12:22. We're not going to sit here over an hour and a half and wait for them to start. We'll come back when it starts because I have some more work I need to do. Leilani Simon has a hearing today that I need to get caught up on. This is where the judge will rule whether or not, from my understanding, is where the judge will rule whether or not they are going to allow the DCFS concerning Leilani.
Everyone can be seated. With regard to the indictments that I'll inform the jury about as to the specific charges in the preliminary instructions, or during qualification, that is, we inform the jury that the charges of murder, 2 counts of that, and there are 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. The state called all of these cases, all of the indictments for trial.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Is that your understanding as well, Mr.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Yes.
All right. So I have each indictment, and I will give the jurors preliminary instruction based on all of that. Anything else before we break for lunch? Yes, sir.
Logistical matter. We've noticed, of course, we've never noticed that we didn't have any regional over here, but we cannot see the jury, especially these 5 or so back here with this in the way. Is there a way to move it out of the way when it's not being used?
Yeah, what is it? It looks like a TV.
Big TV set.
That's how they're going to see all the exhibits, so we'll be constantly rolling it back and forth. This is going to be a very image-heavy case, I think.
There's a way to lower it.
Well, it is.
It is.
There is a way?
Well, obviously the lawyers, the defense is entitled to see the jury at all times, and whatever problem that presents, they must have an unobstructed view of the jury. When evidence is being presented, and if it blocks the defense's view, then the defense will be moving around various places, which they
Well, then we have to bring the defendant with us.
should not have to do.
We don't want to have to do that.
So,
So,
those are logistics that typically would have been worked out prior to now.
well, I apologize, Your Honor. We didn't realize until actually we got people sitting in the jury box that we couldn't see. We don't have an unobstructed view of basically these 5 or 6 seats right here.
So you'll have an hour and 35 minutes to figure that out, to work on it. But I agree with the defense. They have to be able to see the jury. And I can't figure it out. You all have to figure it out.
Yes, sir. Do you have any suggestions?
No. Okay, well, we'll be, yes, sir, Mr. Griffin.
Yes, Your Honor. One issue, we had submitted a proposed consent order as to how to handle some sensitive exhibits.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if Your Honor has considered that and how you wish to proceed in that regard.
Yeah, the parties have consented to and asked the court to approve an order sealing unduly sensitive exhibits. The court hasn't signed the order, but the court has granted the order, or is granting the order, and will sign it, and it'll speak for itself. The order states that there's a joint motion before the court to seal photographs and videos graphically depicting the victims, sealing that evidence which is offered and accepted as evidence in the trial to protect privacy interests of the victims, families, and to prevent emotional distress to the victims' families, as well as to ensure both the state and the defense receive a fair trial. And the court will be ordering that all autopsy photographs and crime scene photographs that and videos which graphically depict the victims to be filed under seal. They're not to be copied, reproduced, disseminated, or photographed, or otherwise made available to the public. Any party offering this evidence which the party seeks to have sealed shall prepare and file an exhibit placeholder describing generally the nature of the photograph or video being introduced. The court will permit counsel for any media organization the opportunity to inspect sealed evidence at the conclusion of the trial and to petition the court to unseal any such evidence. And unless the court issues such an order, the evidence shall remain under seal and shall not be disclosed to anyone other than the parties, their counsel, and court personnel. That order would be made available to the public, but that's exactly what it will say.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you all. We'll be in recess till 3 o'clock.
Okay, so it looks like they wasn't showing the judge then, but it looks like they're going to seal some of the photos of the victims to obviously, not cause any family members to be upset or anything like that. It looks like I have a black eye. I don't. I was crying a while ago out of one eye. I thought you guys were watching what was on the thing, but I forgot I made it full screen. Anyways, they're going to seal some of that. But I'm wondering, like, with the Kaylee Anthony trial, they showed those pictures. Don't you think it's necessary for the jury to see? I don't know. All the death on shops have opened up trying to look good on TV. There's workers picking up trash, keeping them clean, and they just replaced all the street lights. Oh, wow. Wow. So we're going to come back at 2 o'clock, which is an hour and a half. I'll go ahead and schedule it out for you guys to, you can go in and say, remind me. That way when we go live, you can see it. But we're going to start with opening statements. Leilani Simon's supposed to have court today, as well as we're going to go over the rest of the body cam footage of the Marvin McCray story. And I have had someone messaging me about some videos that I don't think anyone's seen of Dre that she released to her her followers. I have to double check that. I haven't watched it yet. I think that's what they were saying. But we have a lot we're going to cover today. Obviously, we want to cover the length of the trial, so I'm going to try to get as much done in this hour and a half that we have. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and schedule it. Try to jump over to the Leilani Simon situation to see what's going on with there. Maybe do a quick live stream if we already have that information. If not, that'll be later tonight. So yeah, you guys leave me your thoughts about this in the comment section below. Make sure you like this video, share this video, which this was really nothing, roll call, picking the members of the jury, which we could not see. We were not allowed to see pictures of the victims. It would prejudice against the defense because they were attractive. Oh wow, I've never heard that before. Okay, you guys, let me your thoughts. Join me back here in an hour and a half to watch the opening statements of the Alec Murdaugh murder trial. I'll see you guys for sure in an hour and a half when we come back to this. If nothing else, and I am able to cover the Leilani situation, I'll do that in between. I'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone.